What's up, jobbers, and welcome to the latest edition of the Jobber Knocker podcast. As always, is Nestlemania. Alongside for the ride is a man that always tells me 3 strikes and you're out. Basketball, JC.
Line of the week from our very own Chelsea Green.
Chelsea.
It's just like, you know what? I was just telling you before the show because I had a little bit of a marathon Monday as I was like half dead, getting jet lagged and back from my flight, and I had to watch all this wrestling. And by the time I got to Raw, it was the last show I was watching. I was like, I need something to help me carry on. And that segment happened, and it gave me the vitality I needed to get through the show. So Chelsea Green, shout out to you.
So we have a lot to get to here. Well, let's just jump right in. It's always in the shine, Mandy Rose style. I guess I'm going to let you go, considering everything's probably fresher in your mind than it is mine.
Oh, it definitely is, because I watched SmackDown yesterday, unlike you. But Nestlemania, SmackDown obviously was dominated by one thing and one thing only, which is kind of like a two-parter. And you know what? Hopefully we don't have 70% of our podcast dedicated to this, but it's the name of the title this week, and it's the Tribal Court. I mean, here's the thing with Roman Reigns. Like, as much as like I do have bloodline fatigue for sure, Roman Reigns and the Usos are so good. They still have me enough. Could they have found ways to make this shorter? Abso-freaking-lutely. But you know what? It's one of those things, like, they treat MSGs like big shows. We'll talk about the other thing after this, but they really wanted to give treatment to their two main things. I mean, if you're looking at top baby faces in the company for WWE, in my opinion right now, it's Cody Rhodes and the Usos are the ones. And obviously we know Roman being at the tippy top there with Mr. Bad Boy himself. But I end with Dom, of course, Dirty Dom. But it just there was a lot obviously that happened here. Roman really doing a great job with the tease, taking off the lay, putting on Jay, even getting down on one knee. I mean, we all knew the low blow was coming, but it just like Roman, it was so well done. And the teases was Solo throughout this entire segment. It just, I thought this was very well done. I thought the beatdown was probably the part you could have trimmed a little bit, but again, I get it.
I think for me, the hardest part is, and again, we're critiquing something that is just absolutely phenomenal. But for me, when I was watching it, it was like, how many fucking pauses are we doing here? Like, it was uncomfortable pauses, which again, in some movies and some television shows, you need that uncomfortable pause.
Roman's auditioning as Nestle. That's why, you know,
but the other thing was like hilarious to me that all the sneakerheads were like upset that he like bent his knee and curled the Air Force Ones or something. Like, they're like, oh my God, that's the biggest heel thing he did. So
you need to get off Twitter.
But no, so I guess this isn't necessarily heat, but I think we will talk about this in the heat. But because how long they went, it fucked up the rest of the show.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. Believe me.
But it's so hard. But like, I just love the nut shot. I love like Solo looking at the necklace. Like, to me, that was the most telling thing. Was like, they keep saying Jay is the next tribal chief. I still believe in my heart of hearts that the next tribal chief is Solo Sikoa. Like, I see it. I see it, not necessarily now, not necessarily in 3 years from now. Like I said to our buddy Dom, this could have been my hope, but I'll just blow it here. I believe thoroughly that once this whole thing is done and Cody Rhodes beats Roman Reigns or whatever, Roman Reigns is done and leaves for a little bit, that everybody's just going to break off into pieces and do their thing. Solo Sikoa, 5 years from now, is going to redo the bloodline with him at the helm, Heyman, and all of his new underling. Like, it's just going to work that way. Like, it's going to be a different generation of the bloodline. It's going to be ridiculous to me.
Without a doubt, we knew. I mean, they came up with the name Solo Sikoa. we got one look at him down at NXT. You're like, okay, this guy's a future main eventer. He has that capability. And the way they brought him up, it's the slow burn, because obviously, like, the Jay Roman story is going to be coming full circle. That's most likely going to be the one-on-one match on SummerSlam. They sold it because at obviously near the end, Jay was holding up the title, which is what we've been waiting for. That's perfect. But it's just like the reason why this has had the staying power it has, and why Roman and Heyman and the Usos and all of them are so good, they leave you breadcrumbs. And these solo breadcrumbs, suddenly the chunks are getting bigger and bigger, that you can't not see them being picked up as you go and following that trail. So we've talked about all the time, like, is it going to be that it's like Roman's going to be completely naked by the time he gets to WrestleMania in terms of protection? Like, it's like, well, it makes sense after SummerSlam. That'll probably be it with the Usos, because I don't think he needs a match with Jimmy. But then it's like, maybe he runs through. But then, like, you come Rumble season, is that when Solo starts to, realize his name is Solo and doesn't need to protect Roman anymore? So I just like that we're getting the breadcrumbs. I mean, Roman told us after WrestleMania, we're in the bottom of the third. So we're probably in the middle of the fifth right now, getting ready for the bottom of the fifth with Jey Uso. But there's a lot of game left to be played, baby. And Solo Sikoa is going to be a major player towards the end of this game.
So we don't necessarily talk about this an awful lot, but I do want to get your thoughts on this, because we don't really talk about the dirt sheets a lot. But I just want to bring this up because I think it's an interesting topic. There has been supposedly, and I say supposedly in air quotes, a call for the end of the Bloodline storyline. Not necessarily Roman Reigns as champion, but SummerSlam is supposed to be the fucking icing on the cake.
It should be it for because I mean, Roman's probably going to go away for till whenever the next Saudi pay-per-view is, and after that the Rumble. So it's one of those things where I think it's time, because this is the payoff. Like, we had the match where the Usos got the win. Now it's time for Jay to get his shot. Probably come up short, we would assume, because I don't think Jay is going to be the champion. But it's just that should put a bow on the story with the Usos, which is the Bloodline story.
And that's fair. I just wanted to see how people feel about it, because for me, I'm thinking, okay, this is wonderful that we've done this for so long, but I think we're not necessarily reinventing or the wheel or reusing things or rehashing it, but it feels very close to that point.
Yeah. No, like I said, I'm close to the fatigue factor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Anything else in the shine that you would like to talk about?
Absolutely. We had the Grayson Waller effect with Edge, where Grayson, like, the tease of trying to be like, oh, you're going to retire. You had a feeling this was leading to a match the whole time, but I thought this, to me, like, especially as someone who's been very high on Waller since the get-go, it just, like, you see obviously seen it on SmackDown, the way they're treating him, but this was the confirmation, be like, they know this guy is a future main eventer and a top level heel, probably for the next decade. And they have literally, like, rolled out the red carpet for him, where they're like, you know what? You have all these guests, you're doing a show. Dude hasn't even wrestled yet. We talked about it last week. He's getting top of the hour treatment every week and this and that. And so that's what obviously gets Edge. And it's like, well, Edge is probably going to wrestle at MSG because we know he's near the end. This could be it. And the fact that his match was with Grayson Waller, and Grayson Waller is debuting at an MSG show, like, that is a big deal. And I when the draft happened and all that, I was kind of upset that he wasn't drafted on TV. He had the exclusive, whatever, because I'm like, what does that mean? This isn't just a guy you brush aside. But I mean, the way they've treated him, this was not a guy they brushed aside. They pretty much just like, this guy is here. He is one of the top players on SmackDown already. And he just had his first match on Friday. And they even went with it. I mean, I could have done without this. I know why they did it, because obviously he's a heel. But Edge showing him the respect and being like, you swam. Like, it's cool to see as someone who's a Waller fan, but obviously it's always a weird thing. But I think it was important, because I think they're trying to prove that this kid is like, we know what we have in him, and he's going to get everything he can to succeed and probably run with it. But I kind of enjoyed that all night, because it's one of those things, like, we can say what we want about Edge, but I think there have been many moments since Edge's returned where he has gone out of his way to try to leave the business and the new stars in way better positions than when he got there. And I think that's cool.
I really enjoyed the Waller effect. I thought that was good. He hung in there verbally with Edge, although, Edge did go on a tyrant again with his fucking
He's
memories.
never done that before.
Like, Jesus Christ. It's like when he starts talking, I think to myself, where's the spotlight, the skull, and the fucking... He's just going to do a fucking Shakespearean fucking play. Like, it when he does it, but whatever. I mean, it wasn't bad. It's just, brevity to me is very important. And when he does it, it's just like, when he talks, it's just like the chin protrudes. It's a whole, I just whatever. And whatever. But anyway, the match was great. I didn't like the swam comment because I what you said there. However, I don't think the seal of approval from Edge really does as much. Like, if he got a seal, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter. I'm just saying, like, it's not an Undertaker. It's not a Cena. You know what I mean? It's just it's Edge. It matters, but not to me. Like Edge is a lower card. Edge versus Waller.
Edge is not a lower card. Edge is a freaking Hall of Famer, main eventer, like multi-time world champion.
Yeah, but
like,
Edge is to me.
It doesn't get much bigger than that.
No. There's the Cenas and the Romans, and then
Edge. Okay. You're talking about the fucking like the fucking Mount Rushmore. You know what's under Mount Rushmore? Edge. He's in that next tier.
I agree, but he's not the guy. So, no Americans. Nestlesworth's nightmare. You're probably right, Danny, but thank you for coming in so late to the conversation. I thought you were going to shame me for something else, but that's okay.
Well,
that's all right.
There'll be
hold on. He'll still be here. I'm sure. I'm sure of it. What else did you like, by the way, that you thought was great?
So Maxine was told to strip on our televisions, Nestlemania. You think I'm not going to put that in the shine? I mean, come on. You know, I love me some Alpha Academy. You know, I love me some Maxine. Like, this was just, it was like, whatever, the fun thing. I love the thing with the varsity jacket. Like, I just, like, tease there. Then being like, Maxine, the next thing you gotta do is take off your clothes. And I was like, oh. But, I mean, obviously, then the Vikings come out and do their thing, yada, yada, yada. We're continuing to do this feud. But, I mean, it's working. It's working. I think Maxine is very endearing. I love the Alpha Academy in this role. It's so fun to just, when they let Gable cook. Just go out there, Chad, do your thing. Cook up a nice little brew for us and entertain us. And it is just like, it's always a nice palate cleanse from the rest of the show.
So what you didn't talk about was Valhalla stealing the jacket.
Yes.
My thought was she's going to burn the fucking thing. Absolutely. 100%. She's going to do some fucking like backstage thing in the woods or whatever. And it's like, this jacket symbolizes yada, yada, voodoo, whatever, the Vikings. And then she'll burn the goddamn thing. And then, of course, Maxine will cry. And then the next week, she'll come out with a bedazzled varsity jacket. That's what she's going to fucking do. That's what I would fucking do.
I'm all for it.
I mean, as long as this part is showing, I think everybody wins. But if she covers up with a jacket, nobody wins, right? So,
well, the jacket's going to be open, and then she'll have her little swoosh garment that barely covers her, you know?
But yeah. Whatever. So here's the other thing. Like, you can talk about that being hilarious, but to me, Otis was the best part of that entire fucking. When he took off the fucking robe and was doing the fat guy in the little coat routine, I lost it. I was like, if Chris Farley was a wrestler, it'd be Otis. It would be. I'm not saying he's as funny as Chris Farley, but there is definite like physical humor and fucking everything he does. He's like. Gable's a national treasure because of the gear shift and being able to wrestle and then be funny. But then Otis is just fucking ha. And he does it so
perfect
goddamn.
Mix.
And then there's her where she's like, she's almost too much, but she's into it. You know what I mean? But like, it works in a weird way. It's like she's almost so inauthentic with it that it's authentic. I don't know if I can.
Yes,
that makes
it's
any
just
sense.
like, it seems like it's too much of like the corny corn, but like it works. It's endearing. Like, this group is just endearing, and that's why the crowd is taken to them.
So here's the thing, like, and I'm sure there've been cases of this, but it's hard for me to, in my head on this second, say this. Let's think about a couple of years ago, how Alpha Academy was so fucking red hot, right? They fucking won the tag titles. They were with RK Bro, the best segments we were talking about. Then they fucking took a step down. They fucking were back just, where they were, just doing the thing. And now they're back at it again. And all I kept thinking to myself was like,
they were ready to break this group up. Like, that was the plan. Like, Otis was going to go do the Otis thing with the male models. Gable was going to be on a singles run, but it's just, I think they saw the magic when they started these segments with Maxine. They're like, as good as Maxine is with Otis, she's better with Gable. Like, their interplay, it's just, it's so funny because she kind of like fits like his weird Gable humor, and it's a good like play off of, and it just, the visual works, like everything about it just works.
So my question is I can't remember a tag team that was red hot, asked to step down, almost disbanded, and now they're starting to get red hot again. Like, I can't in my head, I haven't seen that before.
Doesn't happen too often because they usually don't give it a chance. They usually just break them up and move on. So
it's so fascinating to me because like, we usually joke about bottom of the hour, quarter of the hour, where we're just kind of like, okay, like, we got to get to the top of the hour to get the good shit. Start at 8:50, 9:50, 10:50, whatever for the good shit. But when they come on our screens in the second or third hour, I'm just like, holy shit. Like, this is fucking great. Unbelievable. So I think, do they get the tag titles? I don't know.
It's tough if they're merged tag titles like they still are. It's going to be very tough if they ever separate them again. Maybe.
They're
I
just
just
they're
think
doing
it's
they're doing
yeah.
so
I think
well.
this obviously this was eventually will run its course and like whatever. But I think for now it's like you take advantage of it because they're a fun little babyface group and like you said that isn't going to be top of the hour, but it gets you through and rounds out the show and makes Raw a lot more enjoyable.
So here's my question: is like WWE is notorious for not striking right when the iron's hot. Like to them, they think that this may not be over, air quotes, yet. But you're getting to a point where it's just like, almost like if you gave them the tag titles, it would give them that little push even more.
Yeah, I think it's just I think they know because I think we've seen the last couple of weeks. Like, look at how long these segments are getting. Like, this was always like a goofy backstage thing or a quick match, but suddenly, like, they're getting like real segments. Like when Alpha Academy got for hot the first time, and they just kept giving more and more time for Gable to do his thing. Like, they're giving this group more and more time, and they're announcing featured matches for them, and we can advance. Like, they're getting the treatment right now. It's just where do they go after this? Who knows? But for now, it's like you ride that wave, baby.
Anything else you want to talk about? That's
yeah, I do. And
positive?
it might be something that we might disagree with because you're a shamer of this human being when he talks, but Nestlemania, by golly gosh, I thought Ricochet delivered one of the better promos of his career. You can be like, well, he doesn't have too many good ones, but the thing I was worried about with this feud is because Logan Paul is such a big personality. When you get like someone like Ricochet, who is like mostly all just like prove it between the ropes, not as much whatever, I thought he held his own in this segment. It definitely like there are some awkward stuff because Logan Paul himself is pretty awkward, but I love that he immediately embraced the heel work in this with the insults and everything because we know Ricochet's the babyface. Ricochet doesn't toe lines. Ricochet, like he is as white meat as they get because of the way he performs. He has to be. And obviously he did the Velveteen Dream spot, which I will always mark out for. I wish they had the other camera angle they had the last time because that was mwah. But I thought this was a fun way to do this. I'm glad that this is a singles match at SummerSlam. These two are going to be a fucking car wreck because they are going to try stupid fucking shit and probably injure each other. But you know what, Nestlemania? I believe in these two. I trust these two. And I'm ready for a hell of a show at SummerSlam.
So are you sitting down?
Yep.
Okay. So first off, Dom says, I thought Logan Paul saved that segment.
Ooh, I'd almost seen the other way.
So I can show you this, but I don't think you can see it, just so you don't think I'm making this shit up. I was about to give, I don't think you can see it, but I was about to give, yeah, you can't see it. I was about to give, literally in my thing, best promo ever by Ricochet? Question
what?
mark?
See? I was watching. I was like, I was waiting for the flub. I was waiting for him to lose confidence. I was waiting for him to break cadence, and he never did.
So I will say this much: up until Logan Paul came out, his best promo work ever.
Yes, I agree because that's why I said it was kind of awkward. Because
Yeah,
the two of them together, they're both awkward. So like their awkwardness kind of pulled it out.
So here's what I will say: if he can harness that kind of stuff, where he kept calling him homie and he kept doing like all this random shit, I was like, you know what? I was like, you know what? I believe that. Like, be Trevor. Like, be a human being. Don't be fucking pew 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 Ricochet. Like, be a fucking human being. That's his real name.
Is that his real name? Okay.
Yeah,
I know that.
I only know this.
That sounds like a guy from Paducah. That makes sense.
Paducah. Kenny met him at a fucking wedding, so he was like, "Hi." And Kenny went up to him like, "Hey, I don't want to bother you. I know this is a buffet at a wedding, but big fan." He goes, Trevor, nice to meet you, man." And Kenny was like, he was like the nicest human being ever.
He's honestly like, you get that vibe with him, and that's why him and Samantha are like the coolest thing ever because they both seem like two of the nicest people on the planet.
But apparently, they went to a wedding that my brother had gone to, and he was like, couldn't have been nicer. So for that, I will always be a Trevor Paducah fan, but because I don't know his last name off the top of my head. But no, so listen, I thought he did a great job because, yes, we've been the G golly gosh train for a very long time. This was the most authentic Ricochet did. Can I hit the heat button? Because I think once.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I have like a tweener, but yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Get him off my TV. Get him off my TV. Get him off my TV. I believe, and this is going to be a long conversation, I think, at this part, but I just want to give you little TV guide versions very quickly. I thought Logan Paul was the worst part of this segment. Here's why. He was doing things that inexperienced people do. He was doing things that you shouldn't do. He'll get away with it unless someone takes him off to the side and says, dude, you don't do this shit. I understand that they're trying to blur the lines of being, quote unquote, air quotes again, unprofessional, and that whole shit about, going through a table and all that stuff. But I will tell you right now, when I watched that segment, I went, he's fucking up Ricochet's timing. He's fucking up everything on what he's saying. And then he said, you can say the unprofessional stuff, and we can get into that at some point. But the one thing I do want to say is he mentioned this thing. So Ricochet was saying something. He cut him off, and they're chanting for me when you're cutting the promo. And I was just like, that's it. Like, to me, that is the most stupid thing you're doing. You're killing the momentum of this entire segment. Yes, he's a dick, and I get that. But like, there are certain things you can do to antagonize people. That was just a shitty fucking thing to do.
Just make the forehead comment.
Yeah, make the forehead comment and move on. Again, no one's telling him no. No one's telling him anything because he's bank. I get it. But I think the longer he's out there, the more things he does, the more he's exposed to something, he's going to show us that he doesn't know what he's doing, whether it's Money in the Bank or when he's talking, he doesn't have the respect of the fans or the people that he's working with, and it just comes off like a fucking clunker. Like, that's what I look at. I was sitting there going, holy shit, Ricochet is having the promo of his life, and then Logan Paul comes out there and acts like a fucking doofus. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he did it on purpose. It's just
that's literally who he is. Like, if you, I've listened to some of his podcasts. If he's had guests on, I have, and obviously seen some of the other stupid shit. Like, that's literally like he literally got famous for being a dumbass stunt YouTuber. Like, like, this is who he is. He's a fucking goofball who got famous, and it's just like this like immature young kid who's like in this big world, and he doesn't seem like an actual bad dude. He's just like, he's a fucking clueless kid. And it's one of those things, like, when you have a feud like this with a celebrity, I don't mind a little bit of unprofessionalism because I think it makes it feel a little more authentic, because it's like especially if like they're really mad at each other. I don't mind him like, kind of blurring it, but I do agree with you. There were too many moments like in this where he just like, there's things in wrestling because you are acting that you need to let breathe or not acknowledge certain things. And he's done it not even just in this feud. He did like the Seth feud and Miz feuds and previous feuds. And that's, like you said, inexperience, but that's literally what it is. Like, if we added up all his time that he's actually been on, like, think about it, we know I've had a bunch of matches now, but he hasn't had too many lead-ins to those matches. So it is, the inexperience thing is there. But when you were talking, I was thinking this. I know I hoped a couple weeks ago for Will Ospreay to be the next Heyman guy, but I was like, imagine if they ever give Logan Paul an actual run with the championship. Imagine him as the Paul Heyman guy. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, I think that would be good.
That'd be nuclear
because it would take away like the shit, like when Brock was on his own in his career. It takes away him the fucking foot and mouth like goofy dumb shit. Because Brock's as goofy as they fucking come too. But when Paul Heyman's talking for him, you ain't thinking about that. So it would be an interesting dynamic that when you were talking, I was like, oh my God, I could see it. Like, if they actually ever give him a world championship run, which I think with the split titles now, they could at some point, that might be money for a short-term little thing there.
Mm-hmm. And your boy Dom says that as well. So I do want to, before we wrap this up with a bow, I do want to say this because it's kind of before we talked about what we just talked about. He went on his podcast and he talked about the botch move. He talked about fucking, I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be in this position. And he's saying this stuff. And I'm curious your thoughts on this, because when I listened to it, all I thought about was like, should he be saying this? Like, I know he's trying to, like, he's talking to his audience, not necessarily wrestling audience, but like, are you going to do more harm for yourself when people have to show up and work with you in WWE when you're saying shit like botch, or you're saying, like, I know we can say it, we're fans and whatever, but like in that vernacular, in that business world, they don't use the word botch. They don't, like, I feel like he was almost like he's so inexperienced that he's not doing anything wrong in his mind, but I wish someone would pull him aside and be like, if you keep doing this, people aren't going to want to work with you.
So I'll put it this way, is that his podcast is literally called Impulsive, which is obviously a play on impulsive. Like, that's just, it's who he is. And like, I think for him, he has to be authentic on there. Like, I remember the one that I listened to with Cody. It was one of my favorite like interviews with Cody because it was so authentic, and he got Cody to talk like more of like the human than like, we know Cody's very good with the act and staying in character, but it was just like, it's just a different thing because he's very loose, and he's the thing that you can, no matter what, whether you like Logan Paul or dislike Logan Paul, he is fucking honest and always has been on there. So I don't mind that. Because I also think there is like a lot of wrestling fans who like really care about that, aren't listening to that. But the point that you brought up that is 100% valid, because we've seen it with other wrestlers who do podcasts, is like anytime you get stuff like that, it's going to rub some people in the locker room the wrong way, of course, because there's different personalities. We saw it with Dax and his podcast. Like, there are clearly people that weren't happy with some of the things that he said. And whether you consider those people thin skinned and should get over it and fucking suck it up, like that's your opinion, whatever. Or if you think that like, oh yeah, they have a right to kind of be this, because it's kind of like breaking the wall. It's also kind of insulting. Like, I think both sides have valid points. I'm not really going to say which way I lean because I don't want to piss off whatever, but like, because like I do definitely see both sides. But I think for him, he has to continue to be his authentic self. Now, if someone like a locker room leader wants to pull him aside and be like, hey, man, when you say something like that, just be a little more careful because it does blah, blah, blah. I also think that's okay. And I think Logan would be receptive of that because I remember the conversation he had with Cody. He's like how nervous he was coming in and whatever. And he'd being like, I literally didn't know. And this person like came and took me aside and like said something like, you even said something to me. You made me feel welcome, but at the same time gave me some advice. And I like really appreciated it because whatever. So I think he would be open if he did do that, but at the same time, I think he needs to on that platform. I think it's better for him and honestly everyone if he is a little more honest, because I think that's how you can kind of expand the audience a little bit. Is that like, because the big narrative, like a lot of people watch wrestling, like, oh yeah, it's fake, whatever. But it's like if you kind of can bring them into that world a little bit with some of the behind the scenes and show like, yeah, no, we're still real human beings and we're still doing crazy shit. I think that is in a weird way a way to bring in maybe some new viewers that wouldn't even give wrestling a chance, but maybe will because you have someone like Logan Paul, who they know being honest and open about stuff that you'll never hear other wrestlers talk about. So I think it's a double-edged sword for sure.
So my thought is, and again, I'm not leaning one way or the other. I feel like he's going to get, he's going to have a shorter lifespan in wrestling if he keeps.
But here's the thing: by existing and walking in that locker room, there's already a ton of people who already do hate him and despise him because of that. Sure. He's coming in and he's Logan Paul. Chances are those are the same people mad about the comments. The people that are inviting who don't give a shit, like Cody, like we know how he is because he said how much he loves Logan Paul. He's not going to give a shit about that. And if he did, he probably would just say something to him after. But I think it's one of those, he's already Logan Paul. I think you have to be authentic to who you are because I think that makes everything better. You're going to rub people the wrong way, but you know what, man? That's life. It's just the way it is.
And finally, my comment would be, if this was just a wrestler who was just starting out, they'd get pulled aside and
100%.
They'd be either not on television or they'd get
a different playing field, baby.
Right.
It's a different playing field.
But I think that works for him and also is a detriment and at some point as well. But we'll see how it shakes out. I don't think it's going to matter personally, but
I think he's going to be okay because
I think he's going to be perfectly fine. But
he's about to make Ricochet way more famous than he's ever been, and that motherfucker deserves it. Yeah. So, that's the Logan Paul effect.
Okay. Let me see. Well, you said you had a teeter totter, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious you're taking this because I did like it. The Miz Ciampa thing and the callback there with Bronson Reed, because I didn't really expect it. There's been enough time where I love when they do stuff like this. They make you forget about it, where you don't even think about it. And I kind of liked it because I remember we discussed it last week. And I said, I have a weird feeling Miz is going to win somehow. And I didn't consider it being like this, but I think it makes sense because we've talked about how the Miz hasn't got that edge or whatever. And it's one of those things like you can kind of drag this out more, especially for Ciampa. And if you want to get in the Gargano stuff down the line, now that it's like a 2-on-1, that could definitely be a thing. It'd be a good way to set them up as they become a tag team again. So I liked it for all these reasons because it just like, I think like, obviously like we know Ciampa's a fucking badass. He's had these kind of matches all the time. The Miz has done these matches, but that's not what he's known for. So I'm like, how do they make it a way so the Miz actually does get a win here, but it makes sense for Miz? I thought they nailed it.
I didn't mind it at all. I think the only thing that I was like, I love that they wanted tables. The Miz pulled them out and then as a heel put it right back.
It's what you should do, baby.
Yeah, and then that's what Cody says, right? You would never, as a heel, you don't give the people what they want.
Rub it in their face.
And then the other thing that I thought was interesting to me was we were in Bill's country, so they had to have a table spot. So when it fucking happened, they exploded, and I was like, of course, it's Bill's country, which was great. Bronson Reed, to me, if he sticks with the Miz, is great because if you look back at what he said the previous week, everybody that's called me a coward, anybody I've taken under my wing and has back talked me is gone. Yeah. So it's an interesting take and an interesting thought that like, does that mean he's trying to get rid of Ciampa? Does that mean that eventually Bronson Reed will then become obscure in the Miz's brain as well? Like, I'm interested how that has legs and tentacles in a way because he's right. Daniel Bryan's gone. A-Rai's gone. Miz Dow is gone.
Morrison's
gone. Fucking Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas They're gone. Like literally anybody who's been a part of his entourage is gone. So it's fascinating that he's still there and he can make a comment like that. You know, it's tweaked specifically, but obviously they have a lot of, you know, belief in Ciampa and a belief in Bronson Reed. So I don't think it's going to be the same thing, but
no, but it's definitely, I think it's interesting too, because Bronson Reed made it very clear the first time he helped the Miz, it was transactional. So we assume that maybe is a thing here, but maybe there's also a little more now where there's a little more staying power. So that's the part that really interests me is like, did the Miz just pay this guy to come back and help him? Or was there something else going on here? Or maybe Bronson Reed's like, you know what? Maybe I could use the Miz to kind of get where I am because I haven't done it on my own. So
to get kind of heaty about it though, and maybe it's just me, did it feel like weird? Because like all I thought about was like when I saw Bronson Reed, I'm like, hey, Ricochet and Shinsuke Nakamura were fighting over the fact to fight this guy, and then it like, did it happen? Because I forgot about it. If it did,
I mean, it kind of they both had single matches with him, but right, I think
but didn't like right before Money in the Bank they like had a reason to fight each other or something, and it was like I'm gonna beat him first or whatever, and it was just like when I saw him, I'm like, did that ever?
Honestly,
if they didn't do a good job.
I feel like the pivot to Paul and Ricochet probably changed that because I don't think that was the original plan for SummerSlam, but I think they just realized that this was something they had in their back pocket, and for whatever reason, that's the direction they went, and that probably changed it a bit. And then they're like, you know what, Bronson Reed makes sense here, so I don't know. Don't have a good answer for you.
No, I'm not saying you do. It's odd to me because I don't mind Bronson Reed at all. I mean, the tsunami thing is great, but it was an odd thing where it was just like, there's WWE again, not, you know, tying up loose ends. You know what I mean? Like, it was just whatever. And again, someone can tell me I'm wrong and that's perfectly fine. I just don't remember that it actually had a nice little bow at the end with that whole thing. So it is what it is. So I will get into the rest of this fucking shit. So we talked about the tribal court basically fucking up the rest of SmackDown. We can probably just talk about this as an express lane thing because it affected
the Theory Sheamus match was more commercial than match. Because I always watch on delay, so you get the little yellow bars on your DVR. There were 3 yellow bars on my DVR pretty much touching, which means they went commercial, 1 minute match, commercial, 1 minute match, commercial, just because they went so long without a commercial for the tribal thing. That match was completely useless because we didn't see any of it.
Yeah, that was rough. I mean, from what I could see from picture in picture, it was longer. It was good, but I mean, we always talk about this. The minute you put picture in picture in there, you've lost me. Like,
yeah, I fast forward picture in picture. I ain't watching that shit.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not good enough to be full screen. It's not good enough for me.
And that's a psychological thing, I think, for anybody that watches television. If you see picture in picture, more often than not, unless you're watching Red Zone, it don't fucking matter.
I will say though, for live, it's a good thing because it kind of keeps people from changing the channel. But like when you're someone like me who rarely watches this weekly shit live, it's an easy fast forward.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. It's hard for me because all I could think about is what happens here is like what happened. I thought was Theory's United States title reign is kind of shitty, in my opinion.
He hasn't had a feud,
right? And I think
besides Rollins and Lashley, which was like fucking WrestleMania, it feels like it's like so he's been on SmackDown. He defends it. He's defended it against I think all the Brawling Brutes, but it hasn't really been a feud. It's just been randomly announced matches. Like the money feud is him and LA Knight, and I don't know if they're doing it or not.
So here's my thought process. You tell me I'm wrong. Clearly, you'll call me on the carpet. As I thought about this with Austin Theory, I went to myself. Besides Gunther, Roman Reigns, I don't see a champion like that I'm actually interested in besides those two. Like Seth Rollins is one of those guys that will just like kind of he's trying to build a legacy, but he doesn't really have anything going on.
Yeah, it feels like he's definitely trying, but it hasn't happened.
It's not clicking.
The
but
tag
every other champion doesn't fucking matter, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, you ready for this? The titles that I'd put third is the women's tag titles because at least they're featured every week and they're having matches and there's feuds around them. Yeah. I know it's been like a hot potato, but it's like it feels like they've mattered. The U.S. title doesn't seem it. I mean, Asuka, like
the women's titles,
Bianca and Charlotte are the story there. And then on Raw, Rhea's defended it once. Like, obviously, she's a great champion, but she's not actually defending the title. Like, she looks great with the belt and carrying it around, but they're not doing anything with it. And then, like, the men's tag titles, it's like, I thought I had so high hopes for the Sammy KO reign. It's just like, they're just kind of run-ins to help Cody or Seth every week. They don't actually, like, have a feud. So maybe one of us will get to that in our hope. We'll see.
It's very odd to me that like there's so many good champions. I don't have a problem with the people holding the championships, but besides, like I said, Gunther, Roman Reigns, it's just like, I looked at it and I'm like, they're just not booking the champions, in my opinion, to meaningful things that keep me entered. There's other things on the show that keep me
I
entertained.
also don't know which woman's title is which. And that's a problem. I don't know what to call them. I don't remember because they're not announced.
I think it's the women's world champion.
I'm
and
assuming Rhea's the heavyweight,
WWE
right?
champion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I just I forget whatever since they changed the name.
They haven't beat us over the head with
we need feuds.
Flow.
We're in SummerSlam season. Everyone's gonna have a match. They're obviously teasing Raquel and Rhea still. We know we're getting a fucking I know Bianca's fighting Asuka this week, but we're 1,000,000% getting a triple threat of that at SummerSlam, so I'm okay with that. And you have the EO card in the bank there too. So we're getting there. And the men's tag titles, one of us will talk about that later. But it's just I don't disagree. And it's like you said, Seth is trying his damnedest. He's defending against these Judgment Day guys. They've been good matches and decent segments, but it's not there yet.
Moving on, we'll just go down the order. AJ and Cross became a fucking.
Why even put this on the show?
Right.
It's one of those things. We already like to shit on Karrion Kross, and this just told me this guy doesn't fucking matter. He is a fucking scrub. He's never gonna be anything.
Just another guy.
Yeah, he should just manage Scarlett at this point.
Yeah, it was rough. That was a minute. It was a minute and a half is what it was clocked at. It was awful. Then the women's segment was rushed with a fake cash in, which clearly should have been longer. It spiraled, and then it was Edge and Waller got their time, but then it felt like the fucking tribal cuck at the end. That felt like it was rushed too, and it was.
That was the thing. Is I think they did a good job. Both Waller Edge segments had time to breathe and felt good, but the other 3 segments on the show, you might as well just not have had them because you should have just combined them. It's the AJ Cross one was the most egregious, but this woman's segment, it was just it was like I was watching it in fast forward, but it's no, that's full speed. They literally just tried to do it in 3 minutes.
That was rough. Again. They're not going to yell at Roman Reigns or anybody in the bloodline because they're making money.
Again, it's the most important thing on the show. I get it.
But 40 minutes dedicated to it is enough. That's way more than necessary. I would say, here's my thing. The reason why I always used to hate watching Monday Night Raw was that it was 10 to 25 minutes of a fucking opening promo to set up whatever the fuck we're doing. And I always thought it was
very predictable.
And it always felt like it was Saturday Night Live, live from New York. It's Monday Night Raw. It just felt like, here's your fucking guest host for the night or something. It bothered me. When Evan Bourne and fucking Edge just started randomly beating each other up at the beginning of the Raw, I'm what the fuck did I miss? Give me more of that shit. When I'm tuning in and I'm seeing random shit happen that I don't see, that's when I'm fuck yeah, that's a great hot start. A fucking brawl or something. Let's do it. But when we have these fucking long ass promos, like Seth Rollins, more often than not, or Cody Rhodes is going to come out and fucking start the show. You know what I mean? Heads or tails. That's it. Maybe the Judgment Day. But other than that, those are the 3 go-tos on Monday Night Raw. It's tough. And then on SmackDown, we only got 2 hours. So when you have Roman Reigns parade out there with his fucking 4-minute entrance, pyro stopping 3 separate times, and then the fucking...
Hey, they saved us from the second entrance. They did that during commercial. Thank God. I was thinking, I'm is Jey Uso going to have time to talk by the time Roman gets to the ring? But thank God they did it during commercial.
There's so many things that I just speed it up. Just fucking go.
Here's the thing. I say this literally every week. It's I don't need these fucking constant recap packages. This is something that they'd finally started to move on from. But lately, it's just back to it. It's fucking recapping thing that happened 2 seconds ago and then recapping it 18 times throughout the night. And then, on Raw, let's have a fucking 18-minute SmackDown recap. And, on SmackDown, the short show, let's do a fucking 12-minute Raw recap. It's no, fuck you. No. That doesn't help. No, get the fuck out of here.
It's the only form of entertainment in which they tell you what happened on another show.
Yeah, and also what happened literally 2 seconds ago, and then I'll tell you, it's just we were watching.
But I think the more egregious thing is when there's a Raw and a SmackDown, just fucking recap your own show. I get that they're trying to handhold people and fucking remind people.
They also do it on SmackDown because that's the national Fox audience, the bigger rating.
I know, but they did it on fucking Raw.
Well, and then they do it on Raw because it's Roman Reigns needs his time.
But Roman Reigns isn't part of that brand, so why does it matter? No, it's just.
Here's the thing: they're Nestle. It's one of those things where they're separate brands, but it's the same.
I know. It's the fucking umbrella.
The same reason why the cross promotion to NXT has been off the charts because they're trying to get that up, and it's working by sending Seth Rollins. Judgment Day's down there tonight. They're doing it on purpose, having more of the Corbins and Ali's being down there. They're trying to expand that audience, and the easiest way to do it is use stars from the shows people watch. So,
moving over to Raw, would you like to talk about things that make you upset?
Yeah, this kind of makes me sad. First of all, Imperium keeps fucking losing as a tag team, which is really fucking annoying because I would like to see them be successful. But not only that, we have Gunther and Ludwig walk away from Giovanni. What the fuck are we doing? Oh, we just got them back together last year after Vince broke them up. They reunite, and now are we teasing another fucking breakup where they're kicking my boy to the curb? Unless if he joins the D'Angelo family, I don't want this at all. Protect the Imperium.
I was so like in my head, I'm like, why? I get McIntyre has to win. I get that Bro has to fucking look good because they're having a match next week.
But why do they have to beat Imperium?
Right, exactly. Because it's logical that they're rubbing up against the guy that's the fucking henchman of Gunther. So I get that they're trying to do it. But all I could think about was, couldn't we have just figured something else out here? Couldn't we have done something that doesn't matter? Because like they've lost constantly. This is the first time.
Literally, it's like when Judgment Day started. They're losing every match, but at least like with Judgment Day, it's like, okay, they're new. They'll figure it out. Imperium's an established group of dominance. Like, and these guys are multi-time tag team champions in NXT. Like, they're one of the better in-ring tag teams in the entire company by far. Like, these two fucking put on absolute classics every time they're out there. The problem is they're almost too good. They're so good at selling, whereas on the main roster, that kind of puts you in the status, unfortunately, because you're so good at making other people look good. But teasing a breakup again, it's just like, we did this before, like on SmackDown. Remember when Gunther was getting mad at Ludwig? And I was just like, oh no, don't you dare. Don't you dare kick my beautiful man out on his own, Gunther. And now we're teasing it with Giovanni, my other man. What are we doing here?
It's rough. Like it was. When I watched it, I went like, they're stronger together. Like it's a faction for a reason.
I don't get it. Like Gunther is better with them, and they obviously like would have trouble. I mean, Ludwig would be okay, but they'd have trouble surviving without him. Right. So I don't get it.
All right, moving on. Something that I thought like to me was like, okay, like whatever was. So we have this segment with fucking Emma and fucking Shayna, and I'm like, whatever, it's fine. Then Shayna fucking, beats her, jobber alert style. And then Ronda comes out and I'm like, these motherfuckers are still trying to fucking make us think she's a babyface. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Like, what are you doing?
She has to be though, because they can't make Shayna a babyface. Shayna needs to act like a heel to get over. Like that's what you do. It's that inverse fucking thing. So they have to portray Ronda as the good guy, even though we don't want it to be. That's just to get Shayna to where she needs to be. That's how they have to do it. It doesn't make sense, and it's fucking painful because of it. This feud is going to be painful because of it. Ronda has to tap to Shayna at SummerSlam. That is the only thing that matters here. How we get there is going to be fucking painful, man. So just bandage yourself up because you're in for a fucking rough
I was
ride.
So excited for this, and then I watched that, and I'm like, can we just lean into this? Can we just lean into the fact that somebody's a fucking Hollywood star, somebody's a fucking UFC Hall of Famer, somebody's too good to be here versus the fucking best friend that never got the fucking chance? Like, we're all like, I'm not saying like let's be a babyface Shayna, but I'm saying like, don't change what Shayna does. Just let her be a fucking badass as we talked about. But let's let Ronda be a fucking asshole. Like, let's just let her do it. Because honestly, I'm sure she's a lovely person if you talk to her. But she comes off on television like a bitch. And you know what? That's okay.
Let her be the same as the Logan Paul effect. When you're that famous and you come in with that resume, like, there's going to be people who dislike you, especially in that audience, because you get the little fucking basement dwellers, especially. Why is this fighter in my product? This is my wrestling. I don't want this other person. They're too famous. I want my favorites to get over. This is bullshit. This is absolute bullshit. So she can't be that good.
Sorry.
I mean, wrestling fans get fucking weird when someone cool who can make their product better tries to enter their orbit. They get like defensive. It's like, no, okay, invite them in, use them up, and they'll go eventually anyways. Like Ronda, it will never a long-term thing, but like with how important she can be, it's like, yes, you cannot like her and boo her, whatever, but just like, don't fucking completely be a fucking child.
Sure. It's just funny.
I thought that was a pretty good enactment of like what happens.
I might have to clip just your fucking Craig voice because that's my watching you do that. I miss working with you because that was one of our fun things to do between you, me, and Matt and everybody else doing the fucking like it was hysterical. Like I miss that. It was like you guys doing the Craig voice is still one of my favorite fucking things ever. is also the Nestle voice apparently, because I would do it too.
That's, I mean, that's
It's the
my
complainer voice,
for,
but
that's my complainer voice. That's
Yeah.
my just generic complainer voice.
So not to pile on the women here, but
Zoe Becky?
we can choose your own adventure at this point.
Yeah.
Zoe Becky was like, oh God, like at least Zoe got the big win, big victory.
Right.
Let's give that up for Guthrie. But all
I didn't even see it because I fast forwarded and the match was over. So I'm like, well, that wasn't worth watching.
It wasn't. It was more than 3 minutes. I'll give him that. But the other thing that was kind of funny to me was, so I think somebody on Twitter said that Becky Lynch wasn't cleared, and then like she just wrestled, and I'm like, well, clearly they got that fucking shit wrong.
Whatever. I don't believe anybody on Twitter. I barely even read Twitter anymore.
So the other thing too is like this match was fine, but all I could think about was like no matter what happens in this thing, you got to get to Trish, you got to get to Becky. Like, and I was sitting here going like, this is a nice little piece of business, I guess. But when I watched Zoe, I went, she is going to be so fucking close to being in Dolph Ziggler territory where she's actually like really athletic and she's going to sell her ass off. And I went like, she's almost going to be demoted in a way to be like, you know, pat her on the head and be like, all right, guy, go out there and fucking, do it.
You know who the female Dolph Ziggler is? Just obviously less popular. It's Natalya. Like, I know I keep making this comparisons, and it's literally not to be mean. It's honestly like, it's kind of a compliment because Natalya is so fucking good at wrestling and making everyone around her better, despite not being interesting really at all. But she's so fucking good at it that they count on her for that. And I think Zoe, like, I think Natalya, like, is less and less of her for a reason because I don't think she's going to be out anytime soon. But I think it's transition where she's not as like full time. It seems Zoe Stark is filling those shoes, and that is obviously an important role. Like you mentioned, Dolph Ziggler. That's what Dolph Ziggler has done for the men forever. He obviously just has a lot of charisma, whereas Natalya and Zoe, I don't know if a lot of charisma is the way I would describe them, but I know I make the jokes all the time about her being talking about her. She literally, when I watch her, and Guthrie, this is not an insult to your girl. It's actually an incredible compliment because what Natalya does is so fucking important. And it means Zoe Stark will have a job for the next 10 to 15 years if she wants it. She's never going to be that top star. Will she be a multi-time champion? Maybe Natalya is. So,
but she's not going to be the it girl.
No, I don't think you should ever expect her to.
No, and it sucks because I was watching that and I'm like, it's not her fault. It's just it's the cards that are dealt, which is unfortunate. Moving on to something else that I thought was just fucking bananas was we have this fucking stare down with Rhea and Raquel, and I kept thinking to myself, we don't care about the tag titles of SummerSlam, so why the fuck do we care about them next week? But that's beside the point.
Hey, they've been defending those things like every week. I'm okay with it because, like you said, I don't need every title on SummerSlam. It's too much. So it's like, it's plus. You want Rhea to fight Natalya for a third time?
No.
Tegan Knox. You want her to fight Emma? You want to fight Dana Brooke? Like, what are we talking about here? She's got to fight someone legit.
We have a lot
Raquel's the most legit thing they got.
We don't have a lot of people. We don't have a lot of people on Raw.
Raw, not top stars.
Not top stars. So we have Chance and Carter, jobber alert, which is weird. And then, Sonya and Chelsea win. This match was sloppy as fuck.
Yeah.
Like this one was like, as much as Chance and Carter are a fun tag team and they have the fucking air blowy guns and everything and doing the fucking hip swivel and everything, that's great. The fucking bell rings and it's a coin flip. It's either going to be fucking awesome with them or it's going to be a fucking disaster with them.
Well, you know why it's a disaster? It's because the problem is, and you see this all the time, especially with the inexperienced wrestlers or the wrestlers who don't get on TV as much, is like they try to do a bunch of moves. Like the amount of moves they do are the amount of moves they do in a 10 to 15 match, but they have 3 minutes. So they try to do all those moves and it just makes a fucking slop fest where it's just spot. And it's like, it's not like this shit happens every week. And it happens a lot when you get like in these matches where it's just like you want Chance and Carter to get over by doing their unique moveset to be like they've been together, but it's just like it almost does them a disservice when you're being like spot. Like you got to bring in a little psychology and let it breathe like an actual match. And it's just like the reason why I thought this match was so bad and sloppy is just like you didn't give me a minute to digest anything. You did a cool move and then you were instantly already another move, and I just can't keep up. And clearly, like they're just like it's just this is what you get. It's a slop fest. So it's like it's the combination of them needing to be better with less is more when you're giving less time, but also WWE being better, especially because it happens to the women the most, but it happens to the women the most because they're given the least amount of time. So you got to find a middle ground. Both like they got to have more time, but also like if you're in that position, less is more. I don't need the AEW match, so to speak.
Even, I mean, I thought Chelsea was fucking awful in that match too, and I love her. I was just sitting there going,
Spot.
I was just like, what am I watching? Like,
Yeah,
it was bizarre. It was rough. And again, I don't blame them technically. I feel like you said,
it is kind of their fault though, because if you're
shoehorned
in that position, like, you need to be better at putting together a match that isn't going to come off like that.
But the people are going to be like, well, you get in the ring and you do it. But that's fine. Whatever.
I'm just saying, I would go much slower pace. That's just all. It's easier to digest. Like when you're watching something, like it's the same thing like at work when I always used to get mad about fucking half panels. It's like you're showing video, but you also want me to read this graphic. It's like your brain doesn't work like that. That's not a real thing.
They just want to say, "Ooh, look at the cool graphics we made."
Yeah, it looks cool, which I agree. Like them doing all those moves, it looks cool, but it's at the same time the overall product is just like the brain cannot digest that, and unfortunately, it just makes it look like they had a terrible match, which that's how it came off. Even though they definitely did a lot of cool stuff in there. Just
anything else that you want to talk about, or you want to move over to hopes?
We didn't talk much about the Judgment Day, but I guess we can transition to some hope here, because glorious amount of hope. They obviously have been teasing the Priest Finn thing. It kind of came to a head. Rhea had to play Peacemaker this week, and Dom did his Dom thing of just like hanging around, which I think is hilarious. But there was a couple things when Rhea was like, we want all the gold. And obviously they've been rubbing against Kevin and Sammy a lot. There doesn't seem to be a feud there. And I was like, you know what? I know we're teasing this thing where we're likely going to have Finn and Seth rematch at SummerSlam. It seems like we're headed that way. And I think there's a chance where obviously that could be the point where Finn wins and Priest cashes in on him or whatever. And Finn has that second world title reign that's like 2 seconds long, which I think would be funny. But that could definitely blow off there. But I also think it would be interesting if Priest and Dom like won the tag titles, because I do like the idea of Judgment Day having all the gold. So maybe I don't think you can do Finn and Dom for the tag titles at SummerSlam because Priest isn't going to be in the world title match, so it just makes more sense to have it be Finn and Seth rematch and I also like the Priest and Dom tag team the most because you get the sniveling shit of Dom and the enforcer of Priest. I think it's just the perfect dynamic for them. And the Sammy and KO, like as much as I love them, they haven't done shit, man. They've had some decent matches here, but I wanted more out of this. So it's like, you know what? Judgment Day's hot. They're heels. They make sense. Them having more gold, I think, is good for the brand. I think it's good for everyone. And then maybe we can let Sammy and KO be single stars again. I don't know, but I think that's my hope. I think I want Priest and Dom to win those tag titles at SummerSlam. Maybe they split them after. I don't fucking know. I don't know what their plan is for the tag division, but for the love of God, can we stop carrying around the fucking double fruit roll-ups? Like, let's figure something out. Either a new design where they're one championship or split them again. Let's figure something else. You did it for all the other titles. These should be up next to kind of wash our hands of all that shit. But yeah, that's my hope. Priest and Dom, let's move along. Let's give Judgment Day some more gold. Hashtag JC knows. Hashtag JC's hopes come true.
So my hope is kind of similar but different in a way. I was really thinking about the tag division in general and what they need as a facelift, like you said. But I will say it is SummerSlam. It's a big fucking night. It should be kind of highlighted here. And all I could think about was they kind of rattled off the people that have been in their way and a lot. And all I could think about was, okay, this is what I want at SummerSlam. I want fucking Sammy and KO versus Imperium versus Pretty Deadly versus JD. I want the Judgment Day. I want 3 heel teams against these fucking babyface teams. And I want to hang those fucking titles up high. And we'll have a 4-way TLC match and let fucking KO fucking kaboom from the top of that fucking thing. And it's going to be fucking magical because if there's a ladder, Kevin Owens is just fucking like, I got to climb it. And
Can Dirty Dom win the match?
I would love to see that.
Just watching him like everyone else's carcasses and Rhea lifting him up the ladder and
absolutely.
him on Rhea's shoulders with the titles. Oh, that visual, I like it. Let's go.
They would throw fucking garbage at Dom. They'd fucking throw garbage.
It would be the greatest.
But think about the interactions between like Dom and Pretty Deadly. Like that would be hysterical. Like think about fucking like Imperium trying to be serious and Pretty Deadly being like.
I mean, Imperium and Pretty Deadly. That's a dream match right there.
Like, and then like of course like just all the things that could happen there with like 3 heel teams and 1 babyface team would be hysterical because it'd be like, okay, we got them down. Fuck. Now we got to get these other like it would work. And I think we can't replicate Edge and Christian, Hardys and the Dudleys, but I think like there's a good homage you can do with that. And I think those are the tag teams right now that are at least in the quadrants of those three. They're not close to those three tag teams because those are all Hall of Fame tag teams. But I think if you're gonna want to light the fuse with KO and Sammy and like at least put an exclamation point on this fucking reign at least, or give them fucking something, let them fucking have a kaboom like a TLC match. So that's my hope. At SummerSlam, give them some fucking time, let them be a fucking big deal and have a lot of fun and be safe.
I like it. We're on the same page. We want better for the tag titles. Nestlemania, don't call it a comeback. Bah! I can't even do his song, but Drew McIntyre's big schlotty sword is getting my comeback because you know what? He obviously returned last week, whatever, didn't have the sword. But this week he came out and you know what? I'm giving credit. McIntyre gets pops, baby. But I think his pops only get that big because of that fucking sword, baby. I remember the first time he came with it, how much I popped. I was like, yes, this is what this guy needed. Big schlotty sword. So when his entrance hit and his music hit, there's just something. That music with the and then you see the fucking visual. It fucking works. It's perfect. It's why he's one of the top baby faces. So Drew McIntyre's big schlotty sword. It's good to have you back on TV. You get my comeback.
I don't know what Danny's going to say in the comments because I'm not going to say anything, but it's just.
I thought that was positive. It's positive. It's part of Drew McIntyre is a sword. Yeah. It's his fourth leg.
It's his fourth leg. The other thing I will say is really like when I was watching him on fucking like, so he did the McIntyre thing, you know, at Money in the Bank, whatever. He saves, you know, bro, the week after he had, like between last Monday and this Monday, all I could think about was like when he cuts a promo, he's like hashtag dorky Drew. Like he does these like weird, like he's a 6'8", like fucking.
That's why him and Riddle is kind of fun because Drew has like that quirkiness to him too.
He's so dorky, and it's like it's almost like kind of endearing now that he's like showing his dorky side. And I don't know if Riddle's not like the man or anything, but he does this thing where whoever's next to him, he fucking like he finds a way to fucking grab something out of them, and I'm like. Am I slowly enjoying Drew McIntyre? Because it ain't gonna work for a long period of time. But like, I was like, holy shit! Like, I'm okay if he acts like a complete dork. You know what I mean? Like, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, it is funny that you said this. The sword thing is funny. My comeback goes to "We're Better Than You, Baby," because I fucking love this entire fucking thing. We're gonna go over at AEW very quickly. The fact that they fucking had the tag match against the Butcher and fucking Daddy Magic, or as they called it, Magic Meat, if you watched it online, which I thought was hysterical. Magic Meat. Then fucking they have the goddamn match and fucking he's trying to fucking cheat, you know, with the fucking atomic.
I mean, you buried the fucking entrances was the best part. When MJF comes out and he's like, cut my music. And he's pointing, and all of a sudden he just starts doing all the Adam Cole things during his entrance. And Adam Cole's just looking at him, but they're walking in the ring like this. They're doing this, and then after the match, he's like, do the thing. It's just like this was a fucking absolute blast to watch.
I love the like. He has him in the fucking abdominal stretch, and he's like trying to ask him to hold his hand for leverage. Do it. And
Daddy Magic's just selling the whole time.
Yeah, it was just so like good. There's so many things like that work, and it was like, and then later on he was like, because the joke is like their finisher is a double clothesline, and like they never hit it, and he was just like, you know, if we hit the fucking double clothesline, we would have been done by now, and it was just like it was hysterical. Then the fucking end with the fucking birthday. And he's like, he sings it perfectly. He has a fucking angelic voice.
Incredible voice.
And then he fucking does the fucking Tote's gonna shove his face in there. And then fucking turns, gets it. And then he said, you know, I really appreciate it, Max. And all I could think about was like, I feel like we're headed towards clearly them not being the tag champions because that would be fucking weird. I really hope they don't go the WWE route where like it's Cole and fucking MJF as tag champs, but they're fucking facing each other for the world title. Please don't do that. I do have a fear that fucking Darby Allin and fucking who's the other guy that he tagged with this week?
Cassidy.
Orange Cassidy, yeah. So it's like I feel like they would fucking win and fucking become tag champs somehow.
I think FTR retains against whoever. I think, and this is genius. I think literally this tournament exists to make this MJF Cole feud feel better and also like reignite the Swerve Keith Lee feud because it's just like, and if that's the reasons, then it's genius. Bravo, Tony, because the idea of it is so fucking stupid. But what we have gotten from MJF and Adam Cole so far is amazing. And even like the backstage segment earlier the night with Adam Cole and Roddy, and Adam Cole's like playing off like, oh yeah, we're not friends, but then he's like getting texts from MJF and smiling. It's like, I'm like, they're really playing into like that. Adam Cole like feels like he actually has a friend, and like MJF obviously has no friend. So it's just like it's a great light for MJF because it continues to show what he can do with his character, like some of the stuff he did with Jericho and stuff. But it's just like their dynamic is so fucking perfect, and I can't believe how much I'm enjoying it. Like if you would have told me a couple weeks ago this is how they were doing this feud, I would have looked at you and be like, that's not gonna work. But this has been a fucking joy to watch, and it is the most fun I've had watching Dynamite in fucking months.
I will say this much too is I think if I was booking this, you're waiting for fucking somebody to turn on somebody, obviously. But what I would love to see is Roddy get mad and fucking go after Adam Cole, not fucking MJF, and align himself with MJF somehow. I know I don't like
keep
Roddy.
That Roddy stink away from both these guys.
But it's just like,
where's Bobby Fish working? Send Roddy over there.
He's like showing off his shoulders on the top rope of Impact. But no, I like. What are you laughing at?
It's the way you said that, because it's that visual of him on the rope.
Yeah, the fucking rope. Sorry, that's all I fucking think about. But no, I just like I would see like having Cole get upset with Roddy. It seems like something they're doing there. So I don't see Adam Cole winning the AEW championship right this instant. I see it down the line.
This is how you build to it, though. This is I didn't think it would work, but I am so pleasantly surprised because this has been an absolute joy.
All right. On that note, should we get to the big old finish?
Big old finish. We'll start since we'll go back quickly to SmackDown Raw. SmackDown, Asuka versus Bianca Belair for the women's title. This seems academic that Charlotte's going to intervene. Yada yada. Triple threat at SummerSlam. Yep.
Yep. Here comes the disco ball. She's going to be dressed like a fucking disco ball this week again with her. Everybody's commenting on what she's wearing and how you can see through it, and I'm like, she was out there for like 10 seconds, guys. Like, calm the fuck down.
The internet's horny. We know that. Speaking of horny, we also have Brock Lesnar returns, likely to accept Cody's challenge. We didn't even talk about that, but it's one of those things. Cody goes out there and it's like literally a nothing promo, but I'm still into it. Like, you got the man every time he speaks. We're all on his fucking feet. He's so good at bullshit. He is the best bullshitter. Like, no matter what he's saying, he literally could be like donkey, 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 but he'll talk in his Cody voice, and we're all just like, can't look away. But that's beside the point. We also have a Viking rules match, which I'm curious what that means. I mean, the most I'd ever liked the Viking Raiders on the main roster was their stuff with the Street Profits there. So this is kind of along those lines. We have the women's tag team titles, Raquel and Liv, Sonya and Chelsea. I expect to retain there. And then we have Gunther versus Riddle again.
I don't see a lot of things that I'm interested in. There are parts and pockets of things that I'm interested in. Like, I want to see what the Viking rules thing is, like you said. I want to see the aftermath of the women's tag titles. I don't care about the match. And Riddle versus Gunther just feels like, okay, Gunther, like, just beat him up again without no fucking excuses. Like, it is what it is. Unless Randy Orton comes out
gonna save him.
No, because Drew said in the backstage segment, I'm not. I got official business. So maybe Randy Orton will save him after a loss. Maybe.
I don't know. I think Randy Orton's a pay-per-view return or a big show return. I don't think he's a random lead in the SummerSlam return, but who knows? We'll see. But Nestlemania, we were talking about AEW, and on Dynamite, we have more of this fucking random ass tag tournament. MJF and Adam Cole taking on the team of Brian Cage and Big Bill. I don't know how much of you've seen this on Twitter, but MJF, when he saw he was wrestling Big Bill, was like, "Oh, I'm not showing up." Adam Cole's like, "You have to show up, buddy." So that's kind of fun there. But I think we expect MJF and Adam Cole to win again.
I did not expect to enjoy the team of Brian Cage and Big Bill, but have you seen their finish? Have you seen their fucking finish?
Dude, it's good.
Good Lord.
Put Big Bill in the fucking embassy, whatever the fuck they are. Yeah, do that.
That was awesome. So I'm interested in that matchup because I'll be curious to see how the big goofs slip on a banana peel so Bebe can win. But, you know, it's good.
Everything MJF and Adam Cole right now, I just can't take my eyes off. The other semifinal match is the team of the Orange Darbies that are all in. Taking on Sammy and Garcia, which is supposed to be a random tournament, but they're literally a team that has existed before and are in the same faction. But I expect the baby faces to win.
I do think there is a dark horse candidate here for Garcia and Sammy. I don't know why. I don't think they should win, but I feel like with Orange Cassidy fucking always wrestling.
But who's the most interested in the finals against MJF and Adam Cole? That's the way you have to think about it. I think it's Darby and Orange Cassidy.
I agree with you.
The Orange Cassidy antics with that tag team, come on. Come on.
I
Him
agree
and
with
Keith Lee, by the way, was great. In that
it
match.
was. I agree with you. The only issue I would have here is so like let's say that FTR are baby faces, right?
Yep.
If it's not Adam Cole and MJF, which we would assume they win this thing, you want heels. And the only heel tag team
they're not
would
really
be Garcia and Sammy. So I'm going to pick Garcia and Sammy to win the whole goddamn thing.
The way they've been booking them, though, like Sammy kind of turned babyface like before.
But the fact that
Garcia's kind of like always teetering. So,
but the fact that they said Jericho said you can't be under my wing forever, I went, well, there you go. They fucking got to go improve something.
I don't know.
There's no big bad or like any kind of heel tag team in this fight. Like I guess you could say MJF, but like it's more like just ridiculous.
I think it's just MJF against FTR again. I do want to say that because we never really got a payoff of that Pinnacle stuff. But speaking of Chris Jericho, he's facing Commanders, so expect a ton of botches in that match between those two. We also have the debut of Nick Wayne against Swerve. He's now 18, which means he can be signed, as we saw in the Darby Allin package.
I think sky's the limit for this kid. Obviously, I've seen a lot of his stuff, so I think he's really cool.
Swerve's gonna make him look amazing.
I think Swerve knows him personally.
Yeah.
He's worked at Defy, so I mean, he knows him really well, and I think we're going to be in for a lot of fun. Here's my issue: this is my one critique. Nick, try to be something other than indie wrestler. Find something. I know you're only 18. It'll take you some time, but like, find what you are. Don't be fucking satisfied with being fucking just an awesome talent at a young age.
I think the smartest thing to do with him is obviously you give him this main debut and maybe has a little run, but I think putting him in the Ring of Honor where you can go fail a lot is probably the move because he is so young. Because we've seen how many of these AEW young studs we've seen them put in there and they're just like forgotten about. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think you obviously give him the big TV treatment here. Maybe he has like a little run here of a couple weeks, but I think you want him to kind of cut his teeth a little bit of Ring of Honor because they really should treat that like a learning platform like NXT. I think would benefit the wrestlers and the product so much more.
I did want to bring this up very quickly. When you said that whole thing about, the whole Nick Wayne thing, all I could think about in my head was, I'm sorry, someone's putting something up there. Lost my train of thought now, but all I could think about was, if he continues down this road, what exactly can you do with him? Right? Like he's just like amazing, but like, is he going to be a jobber? Because
he's 18 years old. I don't know, man.
So here's my
got
thing.
Plenty of time to figure it out.
Right. But here's my other thing. And this was my original point was they fucking invest in Action Andretti. And then he was a fucking already in the ring this past week on Wednesday. So it's like, what do you do? Right. Like I feel like Collision's great. We didn't even get to talk about Collision, but like,
yeah, we're getting there.
It's just, it's like, there's so much. Stop signing people. Just invest.
Well, I think that's why I said send him to Ring of Honor. Let him do there because that is the biggest positive for me of why I think I'm enjoying Collision is it feels like things on Dynamite have more room to breathe. And then obviously Collision's a whole new 2 hours of breathability. And then it also gives Rampage as a little extra. So more people are getting opportunities. More feuds are being able to blossom. More people are being able to get their stuff out there. So I think that's a positive. But quickly, you got to wrap up Dynamite here. Ruby Soho takes on Sky Blue in a semifinal matchup of the Women's Owen Hart Tournament. Who you got?
Ruby.
I think so too, because in the next match, which is on Rampage, Athena versus Willow. In the other one, I think Willow will win and set up a Willow Soho final.
Ruby's winning the whole goddamn thing.
I think so too. I think because that'll give her something in that group, which I completely forgot Saraya was in that group and she was like on TV this week. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot you existed. Which probably shouldn't happen with her, but you know what? Yeah, going to AEW over WWE, great decision. We head over to Collision where they have a stacked show, which there's a Battle of the Belts apparently this week too. So that's going to be 3 hours, 2 hours of Collision and then a Battle of the Belts. So the finals of the Women's Owen Hart tourney will happen on Saturday, which was obviously we just predicted. We also have the Men's Owen Hart finals as correctly predicted by JC. Ricky Starks versus CM Punk. And I mean, I'm assuming CM Punk is going to win, but by God, I would love for Ricky to get this. Like, Ricky needs this more than fucking CM Punk does, but CM Punk wants to fucking probably suck off the Canadians, and we know how he feels with the Heart. So my assumption is he will get it, but I would love if Samoa Joe cost him somehow and Ricky Starks got the nice big win. He gets the belt and the trophy and whatever else they handle out because I think Ricky Starks.
I think if you have Joe interfere, it fucks Ricky. In a way.
Well, okay, then maybe it's just like at some point it's like whatever. I mean, it happens this shit happens all the time, but I think Ricky needs to win.
Oh, I agree. It's not gonna happen, I don't think, but it could.
Yeah.
But I feel more confident with CM Punk winning, because it's almost like a fucking, hey, sorry we had to make a show for you, so you can't be world champion. So here's a jerk off.
There's gonna be a. They've already been talking about the rest on the show. Andrade brought it up too. There's gonna be a fucking championship on that show at some. They're gonna add another championship because then they'll do is the Wednesday is going to have the AEW championship and the Orange Cassidy championship. Saturday is gonna have the CM Punk in a bag championship and the TNT title. That's my prediction.
My thought is why don't you just move the international title to Collision? Because essentially the international is like almost the entire world. It's not the Intercontinental Championship because the TNT Championship is. I don't know.
But Wednesdays isn't on TNT. It's on TV.
Yeah, but the International Championship is fine.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's why TNT, I think, because Saturday's on TNT, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it makes more sense to have the TNT title on the right show. That's all I'm saying.
I know. I tend to agree with you. I feel
like
like
honestly, I want it to stay how it is. Like I want MJF to show up on Collision every now and then. I want Orange Cat. You know what I mean? Like I don't want a second set of tag belts. Like I want it to kind of stay where it is. But I don't mind if like maybe the TNT Championship mainly stays on. You know what I mean? And then like the women's TBS, which isn't even really on TV, would be Wednesday. But that's beside the point. But we do have two other big matches on Collision for championships: the TNT title, the main event, the biggest match of all time. Luchasaurus with Christian Cage defends against Shawn Spears. I'm so fucking excited, man. The video package for this week, full pants tent.
Listen, I know you love yourself some Shawn Spears.
He's a fucking stud.
I know you love Christian. I know you
Also
like the promo, but like all I could think about was here comes fucking Barney the dinosaur, fucking coming out there going, sounding like
Barney
a guy.
Doesn't growl.
He does
Barney
too.
Just hugs and cleans up.
No, he just sounds like he's wrestling his Jimmy out of his pants, wearing a goddamn mask. And he's just like, it's just like, is that supposed to be fucking? Is that supposed to make me scared? Huh? Like you're wrestling at the end of the day, you're wrestling a goddamn dinosaur, right?
Christian's managing a goddamn dinosaur, but you know what? He makes it so fucking interesting. You know what? I'm the one who made the joke and I'm into it. So you can get into it too. It is funny that he's still managing the dinosaur. It's unbelievable. But it fucking works.
It does.
And especially then when the title works because Christian acts like the champ. It's just like, it's so good. I just love that all my favorites are on one AEW show.
I just want to say that it's hilarious to me that like at no point at all has Luchasaurus even said I'm the champion. Like it.
Yeah, no, because he's not. Because Christian's his daddy.
And
Christian
then Bertsky just says I'm late on. That's on me. Tuning into Nestle grunts is quite the experience. Yeah, you should enjoy my grunting more often. It's fun.
If you want to hear more grunting, what will probably be the main event of whatever, either Collision or Battle of the Bells. I don't fucking know what's what. FTR, Bullet Club Gold, AEW Tag Team titles, 2 out of 3 falls. My biggest issue with this is why the fuck are we doing it 1 week after you just do it? Let it goddamn breathe.
Absolutely. Did you watch Collision?
I did. I watched it because I love that show.
Okay. So
I watched all of AEW this week. I watched Rampage in about 3 minutes because there was nothing interesting.
Okay. So again, Dom and I were watching Collision live on Saturday and we were talking about this. Now, granted, I think sometimes I influence Dom and vice versa. Dom will, influence what I watch when we're talking about it.
That happens.
But, because you watch with your friends, whatever. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, everybody was fucking talking about this match being the greatest tag match they've seen in recent history. And all I could think about was it wasn't that great. It was fine.
When you watch things live, and especially with AEW, and especially when it involves like Jay White and FTR and people that like guys that like people really love, you're gonna get that. Because like I had seen similar things, but obviously before I watched it, because I didn't get to any of this shit till Monday. And I mean, I thought it was very good. It was probably a little long for a TV match. It was probably on the higher end of quality of TV matches, but it wasn't. I've seen a million better FTR matches because it's at the end of the day, like as good as Juice Robinson has been, how much I like him and Jay White, like, are they a decent makeshift tag team? Yeah. But are they as good as a lot of these other tag teams that FTR wrestle week in and out? No, it's a different dynamic. I do think that this feud has definitely helped. I mean, Jay White's still fucking the biggest disappointment of the year for me because they're not pushing him. But again, it's not all his fault. But I am seeing like little things from him when I get situations like this where it's like, there's something there. I don't think it's what people think it is, but there's definitely more than what they're giving us right now. But in terms of it being like one of the greatest, like what the fuck? Stop get off the dude's cock. Like it was a fine match, but it was an above average TV match.
Even JR put something out, and I was just like, I must be fucking hallucinating, because I in my head I was sitting there going, there were so many things in that match that fucked up or didn't make sense.
You gotta remember, they're also trying to really pump up Collision because they're trying to get people to watch, because it's in such an impossible time. So like I've already said it, I fucking love this show. But do you know how often I'm gonna be watching it live? Not very often, especially not in the summer, because I'm never home on weekends. But
I mean, they're
just like in general, it's just like college football's coming. It's like the same thing as like Monday's Raws on football season. It's like I watch the opening segment, then I'm on the football. I'll come back later. It just, and the DVR, you get I think a third of the rating. That's how most people are gonna watch the show. It just, so I think what they're trying to do is just they gotta be extra fucking hypey and virgin-y to try to get like those extra viewers. That's all.
I will say, so Warner Brothers came out and said they don't care about the numbers with Collision. They just want to be in the top 5.
Yeah, 100 and
they Saturday, will be, and they will be on Saturday.
That's the other part of the discussion with the fucking comparing ratings for things on different days. At the end of the day, the reason why these companies like the wrestling is because whatever else they put on isn't touching this shit, unless if it's like a live NBA game. Like this fucking like shitty AEW Rampage on Friday night blows out of the water any other programming they'll put on that is not a live basketball game. So it is a fucking no-brainer when they came up with this. Having this on Saturdays is an absolute no-brainer. It is a home run. They'll get more money from sponsors for having this 2-hour time slot. They'll get still better ratings, as much as you can make fun of it, as you see 500K. Like for them, like that's, networks are going to take that shit all day. That's why NXT is still on Tuesdays. Like you can say like, oh, the ratings are not, those ratings for a Tuesday night in that time slot on that channel, they're A-okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? I think we should wrap this shit up.
I think we're good.
All right. Well, folks, thank you for being part of the Jobber Knocker, and we'll be back next week with more Jobber Knockery.
Acknowledge me.